All right, day 7, because we lost Sunday because I got food poisoning or something on Friday and basically just slept Saturday and Sunday. I did a little bit on Saturday, which is why I made the video for day 6. But yesterday I pretty much slept the entire day and night, so I feel a lot better today. I've gotten a ton done in the first half of the day, so I'll probably add something later tonight onto this video before I post it. But the biggest thing has been figuring out the work mode between Claude Code, and my agent. So I've toned it back. I'm not using 2 agents right now. I'm just using 1. I did send an email to Anthropic, which Claude had recommended, asking that they move me up to tier 2 because I'm on the Claude Max plan. Apparently you have to ask. And they did move me up to tier 2, which is massively, exponentially larger. So I don't think we're gonna have any issues with rate limits now on the API. That's good, but I'm still just gonna use 1 agent. I do have the heartbeat configured to where it's checking in every 15 minutes or so. It's only doing 1 task at a time. So I'm working with Claude to say, okay, here's the next batch of tasks. That seems to be working better, so it doesn't just go crazy with my huge list. I had Claude go through my entire master list of 100x in 30 days, like all the projects that I want to get done really this year, but I just put them all into the 30-day plan. And so Claude organized all of that, put it into a sequential order, which makes a lot more sense. These are the highest value monetarily, these are the highest value for you personally, etc. So all of that got organized, and then now we're just working through piece by piece, which is seeming to be a lot more effective. I've got Claude Code completely configured. I mass downloaded or cloned all of my repos from GitHub, which is the funny thing. This is something, if you're just new to this like I am, it gave me the terminal command to do 1 repo and get it installed in Claude Code on my desktop. So I did that. Then it was like, okay, do that for each one. I'm like, dude, I got like 30 more of these to do. It's like 5 minutes each. That's a couple hours. I don't really want to do that. It's like, oh, well, there's this, you can just run this bash command and it'll download all of them. It'll clone all of them automatically. Why didn't you just tell me that to start with? So even Claude Opus 4.6, the best one that's ever come out, still can be really inefficient. You have to think about that. So that's where the human intelligence still comes in and being like, I don't want to spend 2 hours doing that. You're supposed to just do that automatically. I am sure that GitHub has some capacity to mass clone repos. Of course it does, because that's probably been around for 20 years. So, but I had to tell Claude to do that. And it did, and now we're completely set up on Claude Code with all of my repos. I've also, because I already had a Vercel account, and I thought I would need to upgrade to a Pro account, which is like 20 bucks a month, but I actually don't, because until you start getting lots of traffic, and this is the other issue. I'm going to make a really short video on this so that I can do them separately. But the other issue is Lovable is great for building, especially building apps and whatnot. It sucks for SEO. Terrible, terrible. No matter what Claude and GPT have told me over the last 8 months, it's wrong. And no matter what Lovable has said, it's wrong. Lovable cannot do SEO. It always returns like empty shells, basically, that your crawlers are just going to be returning empty sites. And I found this out from my agent and from Claude and from every test that I've tried to run. And finally, you push and push and push, you get them to admit, oh yeah, actually you can't do that. You have to deploy it onto Vercel, or you can do it on Hetzner with Coolify, but it's a lot more automatic or a lot more manual. Or you can do it on Cloudflare Worker. It's also a lot more manual. So I was like, well, I already have a Vercel account, and that ties in really easily with Lovable because it's building, I guess, on Vercel. So I'm going to do it that way. So I did that. I connected my agent to it. It ran all of the tests and everything. It was like, yeah, this site is definitely just returning empty content. And so then I connected Claude Code to the same Vercel site through the GitHub repo, and it fixed everything. So now it's going to return HTML to crawlers and to social share and to everything that needs the HTML for the entire site, every page. But as far as the front end, as far as the user experience, it still is going to be just the same as the Lovable React and Byte. So it's instant. It has all the nice smooth scroll and all that stuff that you get from the Lovable builds. But on the back end, you finally get SEO friendly websites. So that's really, really key. And that was much easier to do now with Claude Code completely tied into everything. So that's a big thing that if you're building with Lovable, I didn't fully realize until recently, like in the last few days. Your SEO, no matter what you do to the meta tags and all that stuff, no matter what anybody tells you, like any of the LLMs or Lovable, they're wrong. No matter what people are posting, I've seen influencers posting stuff on X, like, this is how you maximize your SEO with Lovable. Bullshit. It doesn't work. It does not work. You have to do it. You have to, whatever the terminology is, you have to host it differently. You have to put it in a different place, as I just said, so that it returns HTML for the crawlers and the bots, but it keeps using the front end. It's really nice and user-friendly. So just user beware if you're on Lovable. It's not SEO friendly at all. What else? Yeah, just everything is so much more efficient now. Everything seems like we're really, really starting to move now. I have a very specific memory and context document for my agent. Very, very good soul and heartbeat documents for the agents, which I think now are really working well. But the biggest thing is I got moved up a tier on Anthropic. That'll really help, I think. But now, because I went through those problems, because I was doing it just realistic and attempting to run into problems and figure them out and get this done as well as possible and as real as possible, now I understand what's going on behind the scenes a lot better. And so it's forced me to develop a better working order and to understand that the agent actually isn't going to be the real force of the brains of any of this stuff. It's going to be me plus Claude, and then deploying things to the agent that it can just do tasks, and it does those well. But it's way more efficient. It's way faster to get really deep research, to get really good proposals, to get really good output just with me and Claude, and now with me and Claude Code, and then bring in the agent when it's necessary. And we're building, because of that massive list that I had Claude organize of my stream of consciousness, which the agent ran out of ability to do because of rate limits. Now we'll be able to have a much more efficient process to say, okay, these are things that the agent can do and should do, and then it can check in with me, every 30 minutes or every hour, and it can do them overnight, and I'll be able to build that just hand in hand with Claude, at least for now. And I mean, we're on day 7 here, technically, so the things that I'm still figuring out over the next week, I'm sure it's going to get more and more efficient, and we're still going to be very much on track for 100x in 30 days. So while that might seem like there's a lot of planning and a lot of debugging and a lot of running into challenges and a lot of still figuring things out, I'm glad, because it's helping me really understand the process and what's going on. And I think we're building a stronger foundation and workflow because of it. And it's helping me to realize more and more that most of what's posted online about Claw, OpenClaw, and Claude bots and all this stuff is hype. So agents are really, really powerful. But as many people have pointed out, like, these are just scripts with cron jobs. These are things that other types of agentic workflows like N8N, if you're a capable programmer, or if you're comfortable with all of those things, you can probably figure all this stuff out without an agent. If you're like me and you're pretty new to all this stuff, you can definitely just use Claude and Claude Code, and you don't need an agent. I think for most people, the idea of 24/7 is really exciting, but it's probably not necessary, at least in the early stages. Figure it out while babysitting it, figure it out, make it work hand in hand with Claude and overseeing your agent. And once you get that really working, that's what I'm doing. And as it's starting to get working better and better, I'm learning a lot more in the process. And so once I start turning them loose, it's going to be much better setup. So my first couple days, I was just like, go do this and make sure that you're efficient. don't hit the rate limits. Like, it doesn't know what it's doing. But building the foundation this way from the ground up with Claude, and we're talking like 95% Claude to 5% agent, over time, hopefully it becomes more and more and more agent. And I'm sure that will be the case. That's definitely the goal. But in the meantime, we're going to keep doing it this way, and it's working, and I'm getting a ton done, and I'm learning a lot, which is probably the most important thing here in these first few days. And so I'm stoked to keep doing this. We'll see how the rest of the day works out, and if I have a little update at the end of this later. All right, so I do have a little update this evening. My wonderful plan and what I thought that I had turned my agent loose to do autonomously worked, but it was an expensive lesson because some rules need to be in place, which once again, Claude did not tell me, hey, you probably should tell your agent this, because those rules were not in place. And you know, there's kind of a conflict of interest, because why would Claude want to tell me things that save money and don't pay money to Anthropic? Yeah. So when you are having your agent do something that is repetitive, so I was doing like 30 GitHub repos, getting updated onto Vercel. By like the 20th one, it had all 20 of the previous, or all 19 of the previous repos in the context memory. Despite the context memory rules which are in place, there was no explicit, hey, each time you start a new repo, remove all of the context from the previous ones that you've already done and just focus on this one doing your task. So by the end of the 30, it was stuffing all of that context memory into every single input that it was doing. So that becomes really expensive really fast. It also was using Sonnet instead of using Haiku, when that's something that it could have been using Haiku for, which is exponentially cheaper. What else? I should have had it check in with me every 5 instead of just letting it go for 30. It went for several hours, which was kind of cool because it was, you know, it did it all autonomously and it did it all correctly apparently, but it was kind of expensive for what was, you know, I could have done in 15 or 20 minutes myself using Claude Code, just going back and forth and doing it. So another rule has been added to the agent rules, which is that don't keep stuffing all of the context from all of the previous things that you just did into the next one if you're doing a repetitive list of things. And so that's user error. That's my fault. It's not the agent's fault. But once again, it's a warning that Claude is not going to tell you things that make your agent more efficient. You as the human have to think about those things. And for me, that wasn't something I thought about because I'm still sort of just learning this whole, how this context memory works and how the agents are working. So yeah, it was a lesson that I paid for, but a good lesson that now we have some rules in place for and some guidelines, and it won't happen again. And my agent was very apologetic, so I'm sure it won't happen again, as long as I prompt it not to do it again.